They said you were the best in the Parsec.
Welcome to
Parsec Passion, a podcast about Star Wars TV shows on Disney Plus. Now we're covering Cassian Andor, Season 1, Episode 6. We're at the halfway point. My name's Bubba, and with me, as always, is someone who I wish would give me the gift of his absence. It's Clem Fish. Wait, no, it's Catfish.
Oh, Bubba.
Yeah.
No matter what you say, you are my comfort unit.
Oh,
and Bubba,
goodness, yeah.
This podcast is going to be perfect. Perfect!
Listen, it'll all be fine. Listeners, I'll let you in on a little secret. I'm going to say all the things that Clem said to Nemec to ensure he died to Catfish. Let's see what happens at the end of this podcast. We are talking about Andor, Season 1, Episode 6, The Eye. We're going to be breaking it down. We're going to be talking about your feedback. Our musical expert, Double M Matt Murdoch's going to be here with musical analysis, and we're going to have our Bounty Hunter Guild battle, and we're going to talk about our Double C Catfish questions. Get ready. It's going to be packed. Catfish, we're at the halfway point. What is your rating out of 10 for Episode 6?
Holy cow, Bubba. There was so much going on in this episode. You know, sometimes I think the listeners don't understand what a sacrifice we make. Because sometimes instead of just sitting back and let it roll over us like the eye was rolling over the group while they were trying to escape, we have to make notes so that we can entertain you. But Bubba, I'm going to give this 10 out of 10, what I like to call triple E's.
Triple E's?
Yeah, extra extremity EMTs. That is what happens when you get operated on a dude with 4 arms. He's like, assistant, and he says to himself, yes, hand me a scalpel. Here you go, a scalpel. Okay, a suture, got it.
Clamp. Suture. It's hilarious. Oh my goodness gracious. 10 out of 10, Catfish. Holy smokes.
The only thing that could have made it higher, 10.1, if I just said this episode goes to 11, is if everybody had bid it except for our boy Clemcian. I was worried about him last week, but it was very emotional. It was thrilling. The eye was just great and impressive. We always seem to have a new guy this week who steals my heart. And how does he steal my heart, Bubba? He steals my heart by being a complete idiot. And this week we had our boy Double J.
Wait, Double J?
Yeah, Jolly Jayhold. That's what you call somebody when their sash needs to be adjusted. It's time. He was a great buffoon. He was a liar, so he deserved what he got, which was a heart attack. And it was just thrilling, Bubba. This is what we get for having 2 episodes of build-up. This is a far superior episode to episode 3.
Ooh, that is a great point. Oh my goodness gracious. 10 out of 10. Listeners, Catfish has gone 10 out of 10 very few times in our decade of podcasting. This is very impressive.
It was just so thrilling, Bubba. It was thrilling. Who cares what I think? I know you don't, Bubba. So tell me what you thought.
I'm going to give this 9 double C's out of 10.
With 9 catfish questions? Wait, no, it can't be catfish questions. No. What is it?
When you're watching Clem fly away, it has nothing to do with Clem. I'm giving this 9 crushed credits out of 10. Nemec died not as a hero in a gunfight, in a blaster fight with the Empire, not by making a noble sacrifice. No, he got crushed by credits in the getaway. And his manifesto has been a handoff-a-festo as it goes to his good buddy Clem. I love to kind of say my state of mind as I do these. I have to watch these before I go into work so I don't get spoiled in any way. So it's 7 in the morning. I'm grumpy. I didn't have a good night's sleep. But something about the previously on and knowing I was about to get the heist, I was excited again. I didn't go 10 out of 10 like you did because I still don't know if Tony Gilroy really knows the television episodic structure perfectly. But what he does know how to do is tell a story. If this were a movie, the funny thing about this wonderful heist is this is the action beat that comes about an hour into the movie. Like, if this was a movie, the action beat that comes about an hour in, it's got to be good, it's got to be thrilling, but it's not going to be as big as the final action beat, which gets me so excited for the end of this series. It's like, okay, we had our action beat that came at like the end of the first act where Andor leaves his planet and has to escape with Lucian. And then the first job, right? There's like 3 jobs. And so we just saw the first job and it was thrilling. It was wonderful, but it wasn't totally incredible. I am so stoked to see the final episode of this series, because if it keeps building like this, it's going to be incredible. And I loved your point that this episode 6 was more thrilling than episode 3. That's the way these movies are. That's the way these action movies are. Tony Gilroy, who was brought in to quote unquote fix the ending of Rogue One. So he didn't really write all of Rogue One. He came in and what they say script doctored the ending of the film. They've got to give him a film. They've got to give him a Star Wars film. This guy can write. This is wonderful. This is thrilling. I could use more droids. I could use more aliens because I'm a Star Wars obsessive, but 9 out of 10, wonderful.
Bubba, I think you are setting yourself up for a fall if you say I'm only going to give this a 9 because it's got to get better. Just appreciate this for what it was, Bubba. My God.
No one should listen to me. I know nothing. I put out a poll last week on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/C, the letter C for channel, /P Media. You go there. I put out a poll. I said, who is the most evil person in the galaxy? You've got Emperor Palpatine or Mon Mothma's husband, Perrin. And I was sure after last week's episode, Perrin would crush this poll. But no, the Emperor is still champ. Not even a total jerk husband could take down Palpatine, who won the poll with 65% of the vote, where poor Perrin only got 35%. And so I thought it would be a runaway for Perrin. It isn't. And of course, I feel stupid because I created a poll with Perrin where I think if you did a poll after this episode of who's more evil, Perrin or Skeen, who was lying about his brother, oh my gosh, I think Skeen would win over Perrin. I can't get Perrin to be the most evil. I'm just pitiful.
I disagree with you, Bubba. First of all, Perrin still hands down over Skeen. I completely understand him. I want to say that you should give yourself a break. Palpatine has been around for years and years, and people have been able to build up their hate for him, and he still only won. He didn't capture more than 2/3 of the vote. He got 65 to 35. That's still pretty good, but I am starting to get a little concerned about your ability to sway our listeners, Bubba.
Oh man, I hope I don't sway any listeners. Listeners, sway me to become more like Perrin, so I can become more evil and convince more people. We love to say, who cares what we think? We put out polls like this because we care what you think. We want you to reach out and talk to us at PHQ on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/PHQ. If you're watching this on YouTube, go down in the comments and tell us your thoughts on what we found a magnificent halfway point of the season. Catfish, let's do some quick hits on this episode.
Love it.
And one of them is who had the best death in the episode. And you don't have to just limit it to our heroes. Now, our heroes did take a bunch of L's. Nemec, he had his broken body as the ship took off, and even that stab of medicine right in the chest couldn't save him. Did Skeen have the best death because he was trying to betray everybody and walk away with 40 million credits? And it was incredibly wonderful how quickly Cassian just drew and blasted him away. I loved that moment. Was it Tamarin, who kind of died, trying to get from his place of safety onto the ship so he could escape? Was it Jayhold, Commandant Jayhold's heart attack? Was it the Imperial officer who, as crazy as it sounds, was trying to be a hero and holding up the Aldhani 7 saying, let the kid go, let the kid go. And he got blasted for that. Was it Lieutenant Dorn who died so quickly? I was taking notes and I missed that he had died. Catfish, who had the best death in this episode?
For me, Bubba, it had to be a triple S.
Triple S?
Yeah, selfish and smart Skeen. Okay. And here's why.
Why?
He died with 40 million credits.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Now, since you can't take it with you, it doesn't matter that he no longer had it. He died rich, Bubba.
Oh,
rich.
My goodness. R.I.P. Skeen. That is brilliant. That is a pretty good death. I'm going to give my death to the GOAT. the goat who gave up its skin so it could be traded in this pointless trade between the Dhani and the Imperial officer who had the heart attack, Jayhold. The fact that they make the trade, and I couldn't tell if this was the Dhani chief saying, I hate these Imperials, so he takes their goat skin and throws it on the fire, or if he was supposed to just dump it on the fire as part of the ceremony for the eye. I'm going to give that goat my best death in the episode.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, it went out Dracarys style, so I suppose that's helpful. I mean, I could have said Jayhold, but basically that was coming whether he won it or not. That death had nothing to do with he was a heart attack waiting to happen.
Catfish. I'm going to jump to a catfish question for Catfish right at the beginning before we go to our next quick hit. Jayhold's wife and child were being held hostage during the episode, and we saw them with that mask covering their mouth and nose from COVID as the heist was going on. We didn't see them freed or anything, but what we did see, and maybe this is just too much to read into it, but we did see the woman, Cinta, who had been guarding them, leaving the base. She's dressed in Imperial Guard. She's leaving the base, but she was crying. So some people online, not me, but I heard people online say, is there any chance Cinta killed those people they were holding hostage so there'd be no witnesses?
I mean, there is a chance. Is the more likely explanation that she got left behind on this shithole planet and she's got no money and no friends?
She's got 40 million credits. They're just not... Oh, okay. Well, back to our quick hits. Listeners, if you think Cinta blew away the wife and child of Jayhold, let us know. Back to our quick hits. If you were flipping around the HoloNet and you went to C-SPAN and you saw Mon Mothma giving a speech to an empty and disinterested Senate, would you watch that?
I mean, I would only watch it if it went viral and maybe they had her like repeat things, or when she went and looked over, then they showed like a cat playing with a ball or something like that. If it was like mixed up and funny and it went viral, I'd watch it. Otherwise, no, snooze fest.
Part of me wonders if, once again, nobody in the Senate chamber was interested or listening. And sadly, here in the United States, that happens in some of our politics too. Politicians give speeches to an empty chamber. But a part of me thinks that if she was at least being shown on C-SPAN, on the HoloNet, they might have cut away from it to be, we interrupt this boring speech to go to Aldhani.
I feel like
on the scene.
I feel like when you see that, because the senators and people in the House use that as an opportunity to really grandstand and say shameless things because no one is listening.
That's exactly right. Another quick hit. How screwed will the Dhani be now that they were unwilling participants in a rebel heist? Is the Empire going to take it out on those 60 or so people who watched the Eye? What do you think?
I feel like they're going to be real sorry that they burned that food, clothing, pet that they were given and traded.
Yeah, I called it a Muppet. They lit the Muppet on fire.
They're going to need it.
Yeah, I'm worried for them. None of them are real characters, almost you would say. It felt like they're just kind of coloring to the scene. But if you're the Empire and Die Hard happened at your base, where literally people acting as terrorists ended up stealing a lot of money, you're gonna break some elbows to find out what went on.
All right, Bubba. Yeah. Last quick hit.
Let's hear it.
What is creepier, Luthen's fake laughter that we saw a few episodes ago, or the quote unquote real laughter we saw on today's episode?
Before I give you my answer, let me say that Stellan Skarsgård really missed his opportunity to play the Joker in some of these films, because his smile and laugh, not normal, not settling, it's unsettling. As ridiculous as it sounds, because you made me so conscious of his last creepy smile. The way this episode ended, I was like, oh no, are we sure he's a hero? What's happening here? So I'm going with this episode. What do you think?
Wow. I mean, I talked about how the last episode, this laughter was one of the scariest things I've seen, even though Ms. Catfish and I watch a bunch of horror movies. But Bubba,
Yeah.
I will be haunted for the rest of my days by his real laughter in character. He is an amazing actor, and he's done a
Oh, yeah.
bunch of different roles.
Oh, yes.
Bubba, and I always thought he would be an interesting dude. I no longer want to find out.
Come on, one time.
No.
The first thing I think I saw him in was The Hunt for Red October. I mean, that's how long he's been around. And I probably saw him in some things before that. So, yeah, wonderful actor. Luthen is creepy AF.
Oh, man. Holy cow.
And our thing we do every week, though, Catfish, is our Cassian Sister of the Week. Cassian should be looking for his sister. Him looking for his sister is how this whole adventure started. Do you think his sister was in this episode? And if so, who?
I do, Bubba.
Ooh.
And I have to say, they really made her stand out because the Aldhani are all hanging out. They got like heavy wool on. They're all scraggly. They're bearded. And then all of a sudden, there's this like blonde girl who wouldn't be out of place at a Justin Bieber concert.
You noticed that too?
That was her. She was his sister.
Okay, I think you may have found her, and Cassian's rocketing away when he should be saying to her, but because this episode was a little light on possible Cassian sisters, I thought, well, she was on that planet with the yellow gas that got leaked, and a lot of people were doing poorly and dying right on that ship. So I think it has to be the four-armed doctor.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating.
Right. Do you see how when Cassian pulled a gun, she first held up her smaller two hands and then her wider two hands?
I did not notice that. That was delightful, though.
It was great hand work. I do eye work on the YouTube podcast, and that's great hand work from an actor. In fact, there was somebody who tweeted out that he was one of the hands. He was part of that alien. I was like, oh, way to go, buddy. Hey, Catfish, before we break down episode 6 and go over every beat in this episode, we got to tell people that right now, at the same time this podcast coming out, we cover House of the Dragon on HBO Max, and it only has 2 more episodes left in season 1. We're at the halfway point.
Holy cow.
But 2 more episodes in season 1. If you've been hearing a lot of people on social media talk about House of the Dragon, please go to our podcast page and search for the Joffrey podcast. That's Catfishing and I talking about hot D dragon action. If you're into Lord of the Rings of Power, our good buddy Double M is talking with Priscilla every week on that. And so you can find that on the Bustin' Blockbusters podcast app. And starting this Sunday, October 16th, Catfish and I are diving into a murder mystery. That's right. October 16th, 2022, we're looking at a murder mystery where Catfish will be the detective trying to solve the murder mystery. I've read the book Magpie Murder, so I'm going to be pointing him towards all the clues, and we're going to see if Detective Catfish can solve it. But we also want to see if you can watch along and solve it. That's Magpie Murders on BritBox and PBS. All right, Catfish.
Yeah.
This whole episode was, until the very end, was the heist. This episode begins, and it's the calm before the storm. Andor, I think, in like the 4th line of the episode, because Nemec was having trouble sleeping, Andor told them, don't worry, you'll be fine. And I wrote in the show notes, as soon as I heard that line, we're not even a minute into the episode, I was like, R.I.P. Nemec. That was the kiss of death. Oh, my goodness gracious. Holy
cow. I thought the same exact thing. And, Bubba, like I said, Miss Catfish and I watch a lot of horror movies. And whenever someone gets got, she says, he gone.
He gone.
He gone. So that's what I thought. He gone. Aloha to Double S.
Double S.
Yeah, the sweetest sap.
Oh, he was, of the Aldhani 7 saps, he was the sweetest. And
he was indeed.
It was almost his sweetness paved the way for him to pass. And like I said,
well, also his weak bone structure.
But is it especially heartbreaking that they didn't give him a hero's death? This wasn't a hero's death at all. I guess the hero moment was that he was able to use his Polaroid navigation system and guide them out of the eye. But this was, in a lot of ways, just a simple casualty of war.
It was, but also, the poor guy, he never slept very well. He had too many morals,
He did.
too much thought going on.
Oh, yeah.
It's better to have a gruff, non-thinking partisan like Clemsian.
Well, okay. The episode previous, episode 5, had done a lot to really flesh out this team, the Aldhani 7, who are pulling this heist. And this episode, in a very brief amount of time, very economically, really gave us a look at the face of the Imperials, who is this main man, Commandant Jayhold. And he is trying to impress this engineer who came out to the base called Colonel Pettigar. And the way he tries to impress him is by dissing the locals. Do you think that really works? How would what was Jayhold's plan here, Catfish? What did you think of this scene?
I mean, Jayhold is a complete jerk. I love it, though. He actually does have a great plan that he sneeringly tells the engineer that we're going to make him walk by telling him you don't have to walk.
Right.
And then along the way, we're going to put up all these places where they can get cheap food and drink, and hopefully along the way they'll just drop off. And Bubba, it seemed to work. It started with so many and it ended with 60. Now, what do you think of this plan to distract them with cheap liquor and food, Bubba?
Wait, there's cheap liquor and food?
Yeah.
How do I become a Dhani? Let's go. To me, this will sound absolutely terrible, but maybe Catfish, because you and I have both had chances to go to New Orleans. To me, it's a bit like there are some great places on Bourbon Street, great bars, great restaurants, great places. But to kind of get to them, you have to walk by a lot of places serving real cheap crap and real tacky crap. And so it's like, am I going to walk, 5 more blocks to reach Jean Lafitte's or Pateau's, or am I just going to go right here and have this person give me plastic beads? So, yeah, it's a terrible plan, but those bars are open on Bourbon Street, so I guess that's what I came to mind. Is that insulting to New Orleans? I apologize.
It's not, Bubby. You got to have a plan, though. You walk to Pateau's, you have a hurricane there, and then you take one on your way to Frenchman Street. It's the only way to fly.
No, and that's the point. You go to Frenchman in New Orleans, but to get to Frenchman Street, you walk past a lot of crummy places that are having those sales, it's like they list the beer price or the liquor price, as so cheap. And you're like, well, should I? You shouldn't. Get straight to Frenchman. As we are marching out, literally marching out, we find out that Terriman used to be a stormtrooper. Holy smokes. Whoa.
Bubba, I mean, this is where, as Clemsian, we have talked about like what his true motivation is here, and I'm still not sure what it is. Because if I hear this, that's it. This is the final straw for me. We started with 7, which is not enough. We lost some because they split off, and now I got somebody who couldn't hit the broadside of a bantha. Because he's a stormtrooper.
Oh, come on.
Who are only given the job as stormtroopers if they miss a target from 10 feet away with 5 shots in a row.
Well, is it especially terrible for Terriman that he used to be a stormtrooper? Like, did he get kicked out for being not good enough to be a stormtrooper? That's pretty rough.
And I mean, one can only hope he got kicked out from hitting too many targets.
Oh, yeah, let's hope so. R.I.P. Terriman. The Eye, we had heard about this phenomenon for a while, and it starts very early in the episode, what I consider starts very early in the episode, with that pistol-fast shot of a meteor across the sky. I thought that was brilliant. It really, it's a way to build tension where they have those, those meteors just flying across the sky every now and then, getting you ready for the hell that's about to break loose. Was it shocking to you? It was certainly shocking to me to see that Jayhold had his wife and kid there on the base with him. What did you think of the kid?
No, I think if you're getting posted somewhere and you're going to be there for a while, you need to have your family with him. I mean, he definitely needed his wife because they're getting ready.
Oh, boy, yes.
And she's fussing with the kid, and he said, "Stop dressing our son. He's 12 years old. Get over here and dress me."
Well, Well, not only did he say, stop dressing our son, woman, but literally, then he tells the kid, aren't you going to wear your cape? Or, like he's trying to dress the kid. And it's like, do as I say, not as I do, Jayhold. Way to go.
I mean, and then he needs a sash adjustment.
Oh, yeah.
His
Ouch.
wife's like, how long have you been since you've worn this? And I just thought, looks like it's not just the empire that's expanding, if you know what I mean. And also that Jayhold is going to get recruited to be Santa at the next holiday party.
Not nice at all. How could you be so mean to R.I.P. Jayhold? His kid's got a fever. He's trying to impress this colonel. And I want to give it up to the actor who played Colonel Pettigar. He kind of made faces that times made you think, okay, this guy's a typical evil Imperial. But there were other times when Jayhold just kept dissing the locals where I almost thought, this Imperial engineer isn't impressed, dude. He doesn't think much of your stuff. And so I thought that was interesting. And because he didn't give away anything. Now, admittedly, later, Gorn and Jayhold had a comment. And Gorn's like, you're not going to win him over with, by sweet talking him. But I thought that actor and that performance was very interesting and good.
I agree completely.
Now, the team did split up, and this is something I got wrong on a previous podcast. I thought Val and Cinta were going to do something really drastic, like, hey, we got to save these people the impression of this base, so we got to blow up the base. But no, their job was really just to kill radio communication. But that said,
Bubba, I was wrong too, because I completely assumed that stealing the gold was just was not really the whole deal. Turns out it sure was.
Right. So it was a bit shocking that a bigger scheme wasn't entitled for this or wasn't planned for this heist. But the little individual moments, it's bizarre that the show is somehow doing James Bond bit, putting on your scuba gear and then having a little, jet propulsion thing to pull you underwater up to the base. And then killing the radio frequency. This is totally James Bond. Good work, Val and Cinta. Good job.
I mean, they did so many different movie tropes. It was just fully enjoyable.
We've talked about it already, but there is this ceremonial thing where the Empire is trying to trick people to not come to this ceremony because they want to get rid of the ceremony. They want to get rid of this valley and put in a star base for starships and such. But they do go through it. And he gives the dead Muppet to the Dhani leader. And then the Dhani leader gives him skins back. And so it is a bizarre ritual. And he explained it as, we do this as almost like a trade. So every 3 years, by doing this, it allows us to stay here on the Holy Valley. Any thoughts on this scene?
It's a trade, but when is it like, here, I'm going to give you this 2-year-old Schwinn bicycle. Oh, all right, I'll give you a 2-year-old Schwinn bicycle in exactly the same condition. I'm not kind of sure what kind of trade it is. Also, yes. I mean, I doubt that it went, they burned it. I bet the Dhani were like, yeah, man, this smells so horrible. We got to burn it. after Jayhold kept talking about how stinky they were.
Now, for an episode without too many laughs, there was one moment where I did actually laugh out loud, and that this bit always works. The Dhani leader, in his language, tells Lieutenant Gorn, tell him our ghosts have long hands and long memories. And Gorn interprets that for Jayhold. He says, may the eye find the good in all of us. And those lines aren't funny, but the Dhani leader's face. What he's like, wait, you interpreted as what? That was gold. That was really good. As soon as they're inside the base, our heroes, follow Jayhold and the leaders back into the base. And as soon as they're in there, they pull the guns. I can't believe this was part of the plan. Like, as soon as we're in the base, close the door, take everybody hostage, get going. But apparently that was the plan.
Well, I mean, the idea was that Gorn had basically set everything up so that it was a real small crew here, skeleton crew.
Right. And it was empty, and that did succeed. But for me, it was kind of how quickly it became, okay, you're our hostage, do what we tell you to do. And this Imperial guy, like I said, as ridiculous as it sounds, he pulls a gun and he keeps telling our heroes, release the kid. Release the kid. That's all he said. And he got blasted into the face. That's why I will never, ever argue for children's safety.
Bubba,
Yeah.
that's one of many reasons.
Okay. He gets killed. And then I want to point out that Vel tells Jayhold, she's like, if we get what we came for, everyone walks away. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, except for that one dude who we already killed. But otherwise, everybody walks away.
You can walk away with that guy.
Cinta and Vel, they're up in the watchtower. They have all their hostages there, and Cinta's got to stay and watch the hostages as Vel goes on with the mission. And they have their emotional goodbye moment. And I thought, uh-oh, another kiss of death. You do not want to have an emotional goodbye right in the middle of a heist. That means somebody's going to die. Now, they both got out of it alive, but I thought, dude, this is trouble.
Bubba, they're taunting us at this point. They know what they're doing. I mean, Vel says, tell me you'll be all right. And Cinta says, I'll be fine. Followed quickly by Catfish saying, she gone.
Well, that was a fake out. These two.
That's what I'm saying.
For 1 week.
That's what I'm saying. They're doing it for 1 week.
Jayhold, he knows his wife and kid are being held hostage. And I think this sounds odd to say. He's a good hostage. He does tell his troops, cooperate. And this really, as ridiculous as it sounds, this was the trope of Die Hard. They are stealing money. In Die Hard, the leader of Naka, whatever, the plaza, he's there at the Christmas party.
Yeah.
Nakatomi, right. And he tells his employees, hey, just do what they say. We'll be fine. And so Jayhold.
And I'll open the vault.
Right, exactly. This is awesome. So how did you feel about the Die Hard bit of this heist?
You noted it. I didn't really notice it at the time. But what I did notice, and is hilarious in seems like every action movie, every bank robbery filmed since 1972 has had one guy throw another guy a shotgun that he grabs in his hand. A move that I would dare say has never been made in real life by people, even in stressful situations. Right. I would be like, you just threw that shotgun at me? And he grabs it and he cocks it. It's so good.
No, you're right. That is a typical movie move. Do you think in real life bank robberies, they like two hands on these shotguns at all times?
Yeah. No throwing of weapons.
Okay. And I keep pointing out that poor Nemec, who pretty much the internet had begged for death for so long, he also tells Clem / Cassian, he gives him the classic, I'll be right behind you. Kiss of death. I mean, I'm trying to think what lines Nemec should have said to ensure he would live. Is there a line? This won't work. We're doomed. There's no way this can work.
If he had just said, I'll be behind you, but about 8 feet to the right, he would have lived.
As with any heist, things can't go perfectly. So there is a guy up in the radio tower who somehow, for a brief moment, gets to overhear Cinta and Nemec talking about, hey, we're in the vault. It's all going well. And so he gets some troops running down to the vault. The other base, which is somewhere else here on Aldhani, sees warning flashes go. They send off 3 stormtroopers. We're finally getting our "this wasn't part of the plan" bit. And you're right. This is every heist since 1972. It's wonderful.
Oh, you mean 3 TIE fighters, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. Sorry,
yeah. Stormtroopers. That's all right.
Sorry. Yeah, I knew what you meant. That'd be a lame response.
Yeah, right. Here they come.
And 3 stormtroopers. Should we give them a ship? Sure. No, let them walk.
How about a gun? Sure, can't hurt anything. No need to load them.
Oh, my goodness. What did you think of the Eye? Because this is when this celestial event really starts happening. And it's beautiful. It was, you're in Star Wars. Let's have some cool looking stuff. That was a pretty cool looking space storm, a debris storm, if there is such a thing. I thought it was beautiful.
I mean, I thought it was cool, but when they're flying through it, that was incredible. That was incredible. I mean, wow.
Do not fly through that bad. Live to, land and live to live, find
I mean, if you're going to fly through it, make sure you've got your Polaroid camera on you.
Do we want to give any R.I.Ps for Jayhold? This is something that you don't see in many action movies, from what I can tell. one of the hostages just collapsing from a possible heart attack. All right, did Jayhold live? Let Jayhold live. This is crazy.
No, my God. We've got a peace out for Double J.
Double J.
Yeah, jag off Jayhold.
Jag hole for sure.
He gone.
Our crew, like I said, this was going so quickly. Lieutenant Gorn got almost immediately in the blaster fight. Tyrman's like, cover me. And in almost every action movie, when somebody says cover me, they're fine. But Tyrman maybe got 3 steps and then he got blasted. He gone. And Cassian has his own little fight. Obviously, the hero has to have his own unique fight. And he gets saved by Nemec in one of the best saves I've seen in an action movie before. A guy gets blasted while he's laying on the ground, choking Andor out. I thought that was brilliant.
That was great. I mean, Nemec was just like, well, good luck.
If Cassian dies, which of the remaining 3 would have tried to fly this ship? It would have been ugly. It would have been like, release the parking brake, Val. This moment, I thought was also brilliant. So the little rail ship that they're flying out on, just blasts off, and it goes so fast that everybody who's not in a seat gets thrown back. And I wrote in the notes, awesome. And then as soon as I wrote that, of course, Nemec loses his legs.
Oh, man. No, it just became triple S.
Triple S.
Yeah, squished sweet sap.
He gets a med spike. I'm going to assume there's some Bacta in that med spike.
Yeah, and he needs it because Clemian is double N.
Double N.
Yeah, needs numbers.
Yes, he did need numbers, but occasionally it was just climb. You really want me to climb? And then dive. And after he's been diving for a while, that's when Nemec says, at these coordinates. I'm like, dude, say those first. And don't you know, the one thing this episode proved is that Polaroids work.
How about that? He didn't even need any film. That was magical thinking.
This scene is intercut. Did you find it odd, or I guess if you're 10 out of 10, you loved it like I did. Did you find it invigorating that this whole heist and everything is intercut with the Dhani, who here at the end, as Cassian's flying through the eye, they get to see it and they're like ecstatic. This is what they hiked up all these hills for. It's beautiful.
I believe I can I believe I could touch the sky.
Cinta, once again, was left behind. I think this has to be part of the plan. She's wearing the Imperial outfit, but she is crying. And like I said, about an hour ago, I saw somebody online say, did Cinta blow away the family?
Come on.
Oh, that would be cold. That would be cold. Not to say this show wouldn't do it, but it's pretty cold. So then we have to make a decision. And Skeen, who, I had no idea at this point that he was going to break bad and be evil. He's arguing, hey, let's get Nemec to a planet where we can save him. Nemec is still currently living. Let's get him to a doctor, see if we can save him, excuse me. And so they go to a new planet, and this funky looking alien, this really admittedly ugly looking alien, is working on trying to save him.
Hurtful.
It's then that Skeen reveals what a slime ball he is. Did you see this coming? Hey, there's 80 million credits approximately. 40 for you, 40 for me. Let's leave these losers here and take off. Holy smokes. Skeen says, I'm a rebel, but it's me against everybody else. Whoa. And he didn't even have a brother. Skeen.
Oh, my God.
I think you're giving Perrin a fight for just evilness.
We listened to that triple S for nothing?
Okay, here we go. Triple S.
His shitty, sappy story about his brother. Oh, my God. Well, I mean, except for leaving everybody behind, well, I don't know, not even except for that. Tell me how his plan is different than what Cassian's plan ends up being, and tell me why he's a worse human being than Cassian.
Okay, no, I love this question. I would say that, first and foremost, I want to get to Skeen's death because it was so quick. I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Once Skeen made this pitch, I knew that this could not stand. But the fact that Andor just reacted so quickly and it's like, enough of this, you gone. So I love that bit of it. But you're right. So how is Skeen's pitch worse than what Cassian's doing. Well, Skeen's pitch is we're going to take all the money. None's going to go to the Rebel Alliance, or, it may not even be a Rebel Alliance now. It's whatever the resistance is, whatever you're calling the forces that are trying to fight the Empire at this point, where Cassian's is not that much better. But Cassian's saying, I was promised this amount. I'm going to take this amount. Everything else is yours. You're going to get this ship. Admittedly, you don't know how to fly it, but you're going to get to keep this ship and all the other credits. I did what I said I'd do. I'm taking what you told me I'd get. And so at the very least, maybe not Vel, but Luthen, Cassian kept his part of the bargain, right? So Luthen can't hate Cassian. He pitched, hey, Cassian, do this. You'll make this. Cassian did it. So at the very least, Cassian square, where Skeen certainly did not go to Luthen or Vel or say, hey, after we get all this money, how about the survivors split it? That he couldn't have told anybody that. So I think if you tell people ahead of time that you're going to do it for a pay cut, I don't think people can complain.
I mean, I'm not quite sure they really had no choice, and he could have told them whatever he wanted to, because Luthen didn't really clue Vel into what was going on, right, except for the fact that he was disposable, and maybe that was a hint. Hey, he's disposable, so dispose of him. I will say this though.
Let's hear it.
Thinking about it afterwards, let's try and fill in Skeen's backstory to figure out how he got here. So at some point he said to himself, I'm going to ally myself with these people because my long con is to get involved in a very, very risky, life-threatening thing, and we're definitely going to get that money, and I'm going to abandon them all, and this was my plan all along?
So here's my brilliant scheme. I'm a low-life loser. I've got no hope of employment, no opportunities.
Okay.
I find a bunch of people who tell me they're going to fight the Empire, and I just listen to them and nod. It's like, whatever. And then they say, yeah, we're going to steal 80 million credits. And I'm like, oh. And so he's like, oh, really? Yeah, I hate the Empire too. 80 million credits? Hello, sure.
Oh, wow.
Now, we do have to go live in the woods for a frigging months on end. Wait, what? And we're going to eat this terrible, what was it, Dre milk? Oh, okay. 80 million credits? Yeah, and the only two beautiful women are going to be in a relationship with each other, so you'll have to sleep with me, Nemec. Oh, okay, all right, 80 million credits. Keep it up. Sure.
It's a long con. A really long.
You're most likely to die as well. Okay.
It's a long con with long odds.
One thing that maybe you don't see too much is that they did get Nemec to the doctor, but it was too late. Like this whole trip was pointless. They could have saved Nemec. R.I.P. Tough, buddy.
Yeah, they really set us up a couple times, letting us with words, letting us know it's over for him, and then they do the save, and then the kill. It was quite the 180.
It would have been great if they had said, Nemec, how in the world did he survive? Oh, well, it's this manifesto. It prevented his back from totally getting smashed. Oh, it didn't. Here, you can have it, Cassian.
Well, so is this manifesto, is he going to be like, under what circumstances would he read the manifesto? Is he going to have to be sort of stranded, his ship's on autopilot, he can't take it out, and he's stuck for 2 years? What would actually get him to read this manifesto?
Well, yeah, how about that? So he's not taking the freighter. He's taking buying a ship off the doctor is what he's saying, kind of at gunpoint. He's saying, I'm going to give you 30,000 credits for the ship. Right? Should the doctor have said it's really worth 50,000? Shut up! I'm giving you 30,000 credits. I'm taking your ship. But then the doctor's like, well, if you want to, should I have told him it can't enter hyperspace and to reach another planet, it'll take him 20 years? And so the next episode,
as is. All right.
As is. Let's cut to Coruscant.
Okay.
The emergency meeting at ISB. Our girl Dedra's pulled out. Our boy Partagaz is pulling everybody in, and he's like, "This is an all-nighter, people. I want to hear our response, and everybody's got to have our response for every planet in the damn galaxy by midnight." That is really quick. We got to pull this up. We don't have it on file somewhere, Partagaz. Come on. Meanwhile, over in the Senate, we're talking about Mon Mothma's giving a speech, but nobody's listening. That is brutal. Is this the way how democracy is going to die? On those C-SPAN speeches where nobody's listening?
Well, you know what would be great is, and there's not very much time between them, but really I think the thing that would go viral is just go right from Mon Mothma's speech, the first couple sentences to Luthen laughing, and then the next couple sentences and Luthen laughing, and then a few more sentences and then Luthen laughing. That would be the viral video that would get me to watch. I've come up with it, Bubba. It took me all episode, but I came up with it.
Luthen laughing becomes the meme that sweeps the galaxy.
Yeah, that's the only way people are going to pay attention to Mon Mothma's boring speech. Maybe her daughter will cut it up just to make fun of her.
Oh, boy. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Lita. Here we go. Catfish, I want to ask you a catfish question.
Okay.
We are at the halfway point. We were both loved this episode. But the one thing I'm not sure the final 6 episodes have right at this moment is a roadmap of where you think we're going to go. This could be the end. There's a good chance that Luthen could say, "Okay, I tried to get Cassian Andor, but he took his cut and left. So we'll have to find somebody else. Forget him." So how do you see this story going from here on out? I'll go first and say that it definitely seems like the ISB is going to have to look into all these activities. Somehow Cassian's name will come up, and that'll get our boy Cyril Karn back in the story one way or another. That seems to be the only sign point I have. But do you have any other thought where we could be going over the next 6 episodes?
Well, what's funny is you're exactly right. I mean, Andor's Cassian has all the money he could ever need.
Right.
He can go and start searching for his sister some more, even though he left her behind on this planet. I was joking about what would take him to read the manifesto, but we assume he's going to become a true believer by the end of this season. So that would be my
that's
guess.
Interesting.
And so what that means is he's going to have to experience some more downfalls. Otherwise, he could just Scrooge McDuck in his money for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm. He's already lost his sister. Nemec, he didn't know long, but he certainly probably did care about the kid. He was the one who, when Skeen's saying we got to try to save him, Cassian's the one flying the ship. He got to make the decision, and he did it. And so he's lost now. Nemec, he still has that mother figure. He still has some other people who could really be in trouble because of his actions. So, yeah, I don't know. Listeners, what do you think? We love to ask questions of ourselves, but we also want to know what you think. At PHQ on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/PHQ, YouTube. Leave these comments. What do you think we're going to be aiming for in these final 6 episodes of season 1? We do have another 12 episodes to come, probably in 2024. But for right now, where do you see Cassian's story going for the remainder of season 1? And for everybody who gives us a good response, we'll give you a Luthen laugh in return.
Ha ha ha! You can use this Luthen laugh.
Oh yeah, exactly.
as your ringer on your phone.
Right. No one will call. Like if you're
delight and scare friends and enemies.
Hey, it's time for our games. What's up first, Catfish?
Oh, well, the first is the Mandolicisious line of the episode. Either a badass or funny line. Bubba?
Yeah.
I had a very hard time. Like you said, really the only funny thing that happened in the episode was the Aldhani leader questioning our boy Gorn's interpretation of what he said, translation. So I've just got 4 badass moments.
Ooh, let's hear it.
Nemec, at the beginning of the episode, talking to Cassian, talking about how he can't sleep because he's thinking about all this stuff. And he says, "I have faith. You have nothing. You sleep like a stone."
That's also kind of funny. That's funny and badass. R.I.P. Nemec. That might be my vote, but what else you got?
All right. Well, Clemsian says, "You'll sleep when it's done." To Nemec. Yeah, we know he's going to be the long sleep, is what we like to call that.
Oh, poor Nemec. Okay.
All right, and then Double J, Jagoff, Jayhold. He says,
Off. Yeah.
"Tell him we will give him the gift of our absence and be on our way." Oh, and then Jayhold and Gorn. Jayhold says, "You," to Gorn, "you'll hang for this." And Gorn says, "7 years serving you. I deserve worse than that."
Okay, that I got to be honest. That if this is badass, I've got to go with that one. Gorn, you went out very quickly. You went out so quickly, I missed that you had died on the first watch. So Gorn, I'm going to give it to that. I deserve worse than that. Hell to the yeah. Good work. What about you? Which do you think is the Mandolicisious line of the episode?
That's a great one, but I'm gonna have to go with "Tell him we will give him the gift of our absence and be on our way," because it is, yeah, it dropped the microphone on his toes.
Hey, everybody's favorite segment is featuring Double M.
Quadruple M. It's
That's
Matt
exactly
Murdock's musical analysis.
Hey everybody, I'm back. And I'm assuming that you are here and haven't skipped over this part because you want to hear about the music. Guess what? There's not much really to talk about. We're still just using mainly the main Andor theme. There was no confirmation of Luthen's theme in this episode. There was no Karn at all. So I can't really explore anything thematically. But what I can do is explore how subdivisions by the number of little microbeats within each beat you divide, how that increases tension, how that raises your heart rate. Because that was a big part of the scoring for this episode. A lot of it was just slow pads, but it was what was going on underneath that was making things exciting for you. And I'm just going to use a real simple example, and you can find these actually in the score itself too. But I'm just going to use a single phrase of the main theme and demonstrate how things feel more exciting based on how the bass line underneath or the rhythms of the orchestra underneath can help things feel more exciting. First of all, I'm going to play the main theme at a particular tempo, and then I'm going to subdivide the bass line to demonstrate this. They'll all be at the same tempo. They'll be at the same speed. But because we're dividing those notes faster and faster, or we're getting more of those subdivisions within each instance, you should be able to tell how that feels more exciting to you. So let's just start without any kind of subdivision, just the melody itself. When you don't have any subdivisions to anything, yes, you can still kind of feel a beat, but everything feels kind of floaty. You can actually get lost keeping track of where the beat actually falls. And this is great for more emotional kind of things. Oftentimes you will get a lack of really a feeling of a beat in emotional scenes. It's an old trick that composers have used for a long, long, long time. But if you want to amp up the tension, you start creating a steady yet staccato pulse underneath it. What do I mean by that? Well, staccato is when there is a little bit of space in between notes. They don't quite connect to one another. And that feeling of separation helps to amp up tension as well, especially when the subdivisions are less. In this particular case that I'm going to play for you, we will now divide by quarter notes, but the duration of the beats will only be eighth notes, thus making these notes staccato and help creating a tension. And when there's fewer subdivisions, that tension gets amplified because there's more separation in between the notes. let's double up that subdivision, and now we'll have eighth notes separated, again staccato because they're 16th notes. But this is something that happened directly in the episode. There were times when you would have that eighth note pulse, but occasionally you would also get 2 16th notes in there to create this almost like jittery effect. And that helps amp up your tension too. This is in the moments where things are the most tense. Like once they start getting into the firefight, once they're discovered, once the TIE fighters are chasing them. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. You'll start to feel those faster pulses. Again, I'm playing the melody at the same tempo. I'm just creating more subdivisions underneath. So, it's examples like these that demonstrate how important rhythm is. The more subdivisions we have, typically the higher our heart rate goes. And that's why you hear a lot of these kind of faster moving things underneath exciting scenes. And that's all I've got. Back to Bubba and Catfish.
Ooh, thank you, Matt. It's always good to hear your voice. We missed you last week.
Oh, man. You know, it's funny you talked at the beginning about your heart beating faster, because mine always beats faster when I hear Matt talking about music.
Oh, sweet, sweet. All right. All you bounty hunters, enter into Grief Karga's den. I've got a bunch of pucks here, and I'm going to see who wins the Bounty Hunter Guild puck battle. This week's question is, why was Skeen correct? Take the money and run. Bounty Hunter Catfish, is Skeen correct? Should you take the money and run? Or should you stay and keep fighting for the cause?
Look, you're one person. You can only do so much. So I say you give like your 20% cut to the cause. You've already risked your life. You know, your odds just get worse and worse from here. So I'd say 20% to the cause, maybe 22, go on your way.
I think you have to figure out the tax rate before you figure out exactly how much you're going to give to the cause. I'm going to say Skeen was incorrect.
Okay.
Skeen, theoretically, he said, hey, let's try to save Nemec so we can not go to the rendezvous point or wherever they were going to drop this money off of. So he'd have an easier way getting it. But again, he was incorrect because he didn't spend any time trying to learn how to fly that damn freighter. Like literally, he should have said, yeah, let's go to the doctor. Let's see if we can save him. And Cassian, here, I'm going to sit next to you, Clem. You teach me how to fly this. So if we need to trade off parts, we can. Skeen, if you're going to take 40 million, take 80 million. That's the right call.
All right. I could see where he made a mistake of presenting this plan to an armed person. You know, you got to do it the way Cassian did, which is you present your proposal while holding a gun.
Thank you. Yes, of course. All right, Catfish. There's one thing that everybody on this podcast fears with all their life. It's what I like to call a double C.
A double C.
Catfish's questions.
Yes. All right. I've got one question for you today. On this episode, someone said the Empire has no moral boundaries.
Okay.
And now, Bubba, I don't usually like to compare things to real life, but sometimes you can't help the parallel. So my question to you is the Empire better or worse than Live Golf?
I don't know if the Empire has, made any deals with Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, the Empire is giving out cheap food and drinks. I'm going the Empire's better. That's my answer.
Holy cow. That is the right answer because the Empire doesn't make you watch golf. All right, Bubba.
Absolutely.
We've got one last game before we get into our listener feedback, and that game is Andor. What's that secret you're keeping? That is, what question do you want answered in the next episode? Or what do you need explained to you about this episode? This wraps up our second arc, Bubba. So you can say what questions you need to answer moving forward, or was there something you needed answered in this episode?
Well, I actually have the same question from last week, and that's just because, not to relitigate last week's episode, but for a while, Mon Mothma's been standing in place. We know that she's an ally and been providing money to Luthen. But other than that, really, the things we learned about Mon Mothma are kind of how her life stinks. Her husband, Perrin, is a jerk. Her daughter, Leda, is not proud of her in any way. She's trying to do good work in the Senate. Nobody even listens. And so I still want to know how Mon Mothma is tied into this bigger rebellion. So Mon Mothma, what she's doing, that's the secret Andor is keeping.
Woo. Bubba, that was almost the right answer. But I have the right answer to this question.
Ooh,
all right, so this is going to require listeners to either watch the end or maybe we can tweet out a screenshot. At the end of this episode, when Luthen is just creepily laughing in his back room, there's the back of what looks like a Darth Vader suit.
Oh, yeah.
But instead it has like long fronds coming out of the helmet. And it's got a very arty neck plate off to the side. So the question I want answered is, was this someone's party costume and they forgot to pick it up? Or is this Darth Vader workshopping a new look that ultimately failed because we never saw him wear?
Do you want to see Vader keep trying on these helmets and then be like, God, it looks so badass. It looks like I have swords coming out of my head. Here, let me see it in the other room. He keeps hitting his head on the top of the door frame.
Yes, so cool. And then when finally he gets low enough to go through, he hits the side of his neck plate on the door.
Oh.
You can spin around. Okay, so yeah, that is the question.
Terrible. Hey, do you have questions that you have about this final 6 episodes? Once again, we said, where is it headed? Listeners, let us know what you think. And we care about what you think. And if you write to us, we're going to read your feedback. And so we're going to jump into some of your feedback right now. We always say, if you're watching on YouTube, go down in the comments, leave us a question or your thoughts on the episodes. Got this bit of feedback from Stomper1232 on YouTube about the last episode, episode 5. And we always say, who's Cassian's sister of the week? Well, Stomper wrote, I also thought that girl with black hair in episodes 4 and 5 could possibly be Andor's sister. So, hey, Stomper, way to go. He's joining in with us. Who could be Cassian's sister? Oh, thank you.
I love it. And Larot says, just a correction. The U.S. military doesn't defend your freedom. It mostly takes others.
Oh, man, that was directed at me. Point noted. We keep asking who's the worst, Perrin or Leda. And so somebody on YouTube who goes by CT-5597 wrote, Perrin, of course. He's a grown-ass adult and should know better than to act like a man-child. Leda has the excuse of being a bratty teen, and we all go through that phase. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with CT Catfish? Is that the right answer of who's the worst, Perrin or Leda?
Well, obviously, last week I said that double L.
Double L.
Yeah, larger Leia.
Yeah.
That is AKA Leda, was the worst. And so far, I don't care that CT-5597 might be a robot and therefore has applied logic correctly. I'm still unswayed.
You know, CT-5597, that's the best droid in the galaxy. We got to trust their processing. That's pretty smart. We got one nice note on Facebook this week. It's from Dan, who wrote, this Parsec Passion Podcast is the best podcast in the galaxy. Thank you so much, Dan.
Heck yeah, we'd like to thank you. Make sure to get your cufflinks.
And because we do this recording of the episode every Wednesday night, we've already got 2 bits of feedback on episode 6 on Twitter, Catfish. What's the first bit?
Holy cow, I love it. We've got Sean Gregan at Hey Ref said, I'm still shaking from the rush of watching episode 6. The heist was incredible, from the visuals, music, the action, the tragedy, the finish. Might be the best TV I've watched this year. 10 out of 10 agrees with Catfish. Just finished watching. Had to tweet about it as soon as I'd finished.
10 out of 10. So Sean agrees with you, Catfish. I only went 9 out of 10. I'm the bad guy here. What's our next bit of feedback from Laura?
It's from Laura McMillian at MesoCat. This episode is definitely a 10 out of 10.
There we go.
And I give this 3-episode story arc a 10 as well. It's a shame Nemec was killed, but I have a feeling that the manifesto he left to Cassian will be a big motivation for him later. I agree, if only we have an excuse for him bothering to read it.
We did get some feedback on Twitter about episode 5 from Laura, and Sean will read that in a bit, but I want to read this bit of feedback from Levi, who's at sweet_tortilla on Twitter. Levi wrote, Mon Mothma's husband has definitely earned a complimentary surprise skydive off a building on Coruscant.
Yes, congratulations, happy birthday. Next year you'll get your parachute.
Oh, you know, I couldn't afford the parachute this year, Perrin. Sorry. Now, I mentioned Laura and Sean Gregan gave us some feedback on the last episode. Laura wrote, if I had to deal with Man Mothma, that is so awesome. Instead of Mon Mothma, she calls the husband Man Mothma. And Child Mothma very much. I think I'd just throw myself off the balcony. She gave us some ratings on previous episodes. She said she gave episode 4 an 8 out of 10 and episode 5 a 9 out of 10. And she was already saying she might give this episode 6 a 10 out of 10. She says of all the Disney shows announced way back when, the Disney Star Wars shows, she said Andor was the show she was most excited about. And she says she's not disappointed at all. That is awesome.
Well, that's great. I wonder if Laura could tell us why. Maybe it was because, like me, she just thought Rogue One was a very cool kind of sideways glance at the Star Wars universe, and this is proving to be very Rogue One as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because of it's just different.
Yeah. And we mentioned Sean Gregan gave this episode 10 out of 10. Last week's episode 5, he gave it 9 double S's out of 10.
Double S's?
That's right. Supportive spouses. If only the episode had any supportive spouses. Sean wrote, it's heartwarming to know that even long ago in a galaxy far, far away, a career-oriented woman trying to do a little good would be so misunderstood by a teenage daughter and douche of a husband. It's relatable. Now, Sean, here, read this stuff because Sean takes me to task here, Catfish.
He says, Bubba moaning because he needs to wait a week for the next episode is Sean's biggest gripe. Okay, there's so many bad shows getting by on 5 minutes, bad action. I'm glad the show is telling the story well, even if it's slowly done. But, he said that's not his biggest gripe.
What?
I hate to have been on Bubba twice in one episode, but how can Bubba defend a mercenary working for the rebellion when he's getting paid in Imperial credits? Ultimately, he needs the Empire to stay in business. At least Mando wanted Latinum.
Okay, or he wanted calamari flan. That's fair enough. But I haven't read any of the. I haven't read all the books about the time after Return of the Jedi. But don't you think that the Republic used Imperial credits and just renamed them Republic credits? Right? Literally, are you going to get rid of all these coins? Or is that what you do when an empire falls? You do have to create entirely new currency. My history ignorance is coming through. I'm sorry.
I mean, you just use the dominant culture's coins, I guess.
And we know that's not the Aldhani. So
it is a problem, though, because what have the Romans ever done for us?
I know, except the sewage system and the water viaducts. And yes. Hey, that's it for this week. We got 6 more episodes, 6 more weeks of fun back and forth. And all the feedback we've heard so far about this episode is everybody loves it. If you're one of those people who thinks this episode 6 wasn't good and you think, hey, Catfish and Bubba are just talking about an episode that isn't that good, the way you can get your feelings shared with our wonderful, loyal listeners is to write us on social media. And you can find me on Twitter at FittenTrim. That's FITTENTRIM at FittenTrim on Twitter.
And you can hit me up at CJGman67 on Twitter and G to the man, GEETOTHEMAN on Instagram. And we will talk to you next week on an episode that Bubba is sure to be disappointed by because it's the first of a 3-parter, episode 7 on
Parsec Passion Podcast. All right, Catfish, for our YouTube audience, give your best Luthen creepy smile. Let's see it. Oh, man. Oh, man, that's tough.
That's my real laughter.
I'm really happy. People don't watch that on YouTube. That's too damn creepy.